Today we have the pleasure of speaking with photographer Mark Velasquez, an artist known for his bold, narrative-driven imagery and unfettered approach to storytelling. Mark has a great imagination and a creative approach to his photography, and he's traveled all over the United States and Europe, capturing images of beautiful women and more. I met Mark years ago through an online blog, and his images really struck a chord with me. I've always loved storytelling, and he is the master of storytelling. In this interview, we'll dive into his inspiration and creative processes and the stories behind some of his most striking photos. This video is a two-part series, so I hope you stay tuned through this one and watch the next one. So let's get into it and meet Mark. But before we do, please remember to click on like and subscribe if you like this video so you get reminded of when I post new ones. And also it kind of helps my channel. Thank you very much, and let's meet Mark. Mark, it's good seeing you, man. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It has been a while, yeah.
Do you remember what year it was that you come to West Virginia?
It was 2009.
2009. I'm going to go back and find some pictures and edit those in. I had some pictures. I've sent you those of us on the deck of the cabin.
Yeah, no, those are great. I have several photos. I remember the angry carp that were in that little lake that no one could eat because they tasted so bad that they would just swarm everywhere. It was the first time I'd ever seen fireflies in real life, or lightning bugs. And I got to drink moonshine with you and your brother on the deck of your cabin. That was really nice.
Yeah. So how you been doing? You been good? Things going good?
Doing good. I had a bit of a late night last night, but otherwise I'm doing good. I'm right now I'm working on my short film, so I'm like highlighting my script right now.
Oh yeah.
I'm making lots of little props. The plot of the story is takes place in medieval England, and so I'm making little vials of like holy water and things like that. I love making props. I've got a whole table over there full of stuff. So we had a read through last night, a bit of a dress rehearsal. So that's fun to hear the actors get together and stuff. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So my first time of meeting you was on a blog that you had back in the days of a blog.
All right.
So, and you had created a series of photos that had a huge impact on me. At the time, I don't really know when I recognized the type of stuff that I liked, but as I matured in my interest in photography and art, is that I really loved illustration. I really loved Norman Rockwell, and Vargas and the pinup and all of that stuff was literally a communication where you could tell the story in one picture. So if somebody's seen it, they understood the story.
Yeah.
And yours knocked me out of my chair. I mean, the stories that you created. So tell me, how did you come up with that concept, and how in the world how long did it go? How long did it take you to get through the whole series?
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I always feel, I think like most creative people, that I'm toiling away in obscurity and nobody will ever see my stuff ever. But I really liken it to being a huge comic book guy. I was raised with comics before they were cool. It was still considered nerdy to read comics, but my brother and I would read comics extensively. I loved the stories, but I really cared much more about the art. I was much more of a visual artist. My brother never cared about the art, so I would kind of steal his that looked better, because I would study the anatomy of the musculature and everything like that. And so I was always drawing. Like you said, I love Norman Rockwell too. I always loved illustration and that kind of thing. And so I likened all my photos to eventually being comic book covers. Even to this day, when I take a photo and the composition is a vertical rectangle, there's space at the top and there's spaces in the corner for QR codes or for
Wow.
barcodes, or the top always feels like it should say Daredevil or Captain America across the top. I always frame things in that way. I want them to be dynamic and tell, like you said, a story in one image. And so I really liken my inspiration to just reading thousands upon thousands of comic books. And so when I started taking photos, that style had already just kind of been in my brain. But the Seven Deadly Sins series that you're talking about, I just really, being raised very Catholic, 12 years of Catholic school. I was an altar boy for many years. I was an altar boy leader. And then I was a Boy Scout leader, Eagle Scout, everything. So I lived in a very kind of conservative world, a very dramatic world. Especially Catholicism is it's all about symmetry, and it's all about contrast and contradiction. And so the Seven Deadly Sins is a Catholic thing, sloth, gluttony, lust, etc. And so I just liked the idea of playing with that concept or making it more modern. In the late 90s and early 2000s, there were a lot of those Shakespearean movies that were being remade, but they were being told, instead of having a sword with Hamlet, he's got a automatic pistol, and it's Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's taking place in current times. And so I thought, how would I modernize the Seven Deadly Sins for this time period? And so Lust, I made a nerdy guy staring, intimidated by this overly sexualized woman, or Pride is this woman laughing at a man's small penis, things like that I just thought were funny. And then it just kind of took on a life of its own. And I've always been a storyteller, so I just wanted to fill out the whole series and see where it went.
Well, you have a unique ability of being able to enthuse people around you to support you in an effort of creating that. That is not an easy task. By any means, that is not an easy task to get somebody to go, okay, this is what I want you to do, like a director of a movie, and yet get the cast to actually show up, finding the locations, getting the concept of in your head into the camera is a big challenge. If you don't mind, I'm going to pull those up and we can talk about a couple of them.
All right.
So I'm going to share my screen just a moment.
Well, and like you were saying, I tell my students, I teach photography at the local community college, and I tell them all the time that photography is the easiest part of it, the photography, because getting the schedules and managing the people. Let's click to the next one.
So this one here, so tell me about the idea on this one.
That's my least favorite one because I had to make my beautiful friend Marlene look unattractive in the background there. And I know she hates this photo also. But it's it's envy. It's women always envying what they don't have. If you have straight hair, you want curly hair. If you have curly hair, you want straight hair. If you have small breasts, you want large ones. If you have large ones, you want smaller breasts. And so that was the last one I did in the series just to finish it up. And I can tell that it's not as good of a quality. So it's my least favorite.
What was your location? Was that in
So I knew people, my friends and I used to go to this local bar. And this is probably before I drank, actually. I didn't drink till my 30s. And I knew them really well. And we would go after hours and hang out because we knew the bartender really well. While my friends were getting drunk, I just had my friends show up, and we shot this in the bathroom with, I set up a strobe light, a bright studio light in the corner, and we shot it.
Wow, that's awesome. Let me go to see if I can switch to the next one here now. Let me see. Oh, there we go. So
this girl I had met when I first started shooting with models, MySpace was still a thing, and MySpace had an odd selection filter that said, you could look up friends who were 18 to 25 and athletic build or heavy set build. You could choose oddly all these things. And so I had met my first model, Kari, this way, and she's a dancer at the local community college. And she's gone on to own her own dance studio and have a family, and she's wonderful. But this was another girl that she had danced with, who was goofy and silly and was in incredible shape, as all dancers are. And she just had a fun sense of humor. And so when I told her the idea, she just leapt at the chance. And then a family friend of mine who was in his late 70s at the time, he just passed away in his late 90s. He had this old vintage house that he hadn't, him and his twin brother, they never married, and they lived in this house since they had bought it in 1965 or whatever. And so nothing had changed in that house. And it's just a clean, simple bachelor environment. And so he let me use his house, and we shot in there for an afternoon. Oh, dancers really struggle. My wife, when she was much younger, she danced at ballet for many years, and so she ended up going to New York and dancing for a summer at the Joffrey Ballet, which is a very famous ballet in New York City. And she used to say that no, the dancers would just fill their stomach with either toilet paper or tissues because it was low calorie and it would fill their stomach, but they wouldn't gain weight. That's how sad and pathetic it can get in that industry. And then the idea for this sandwich was, we always used to read newspaper comic strips, and Blondie was about the husband who was always kind of a lazeabout, and he would make these sandwiches that were 6 feet tall. And so you can't see in this photo, but there are lots of skewers and toothpicks holding that thing up.
Oh, well, you did a great job. Great control of depth of field and everything on it too. I mean, that's just the perfect amount. That's awesome. What did you use the wide angle lens on there, do you think, or what?
Yeah, this is all in camera. The only thing I did was I kind of desaturated her to make her feel a little more lifeless. But no, like I said, I tell my students the photography is the easiest part. Getting the schedule and the prop, and especially when you're dealing with food, it's never going to look as glossy and nice as they make it look in commercials. So yeah, you do what you can.
Awesome. All right, this one is what called what?
This is Greed.
Oh, Greed.
And so my family owned a small burger restaurant here in town, and next to it was this little Mexican market that is still there, and I go shop there from time to time. And so after hours, they let us go in there. So this is probably taken at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night on a Wednesday or Thursday. And I had met this woman who wanted to model, and she was very tall and elegant, and she looked very fancy. And I borrowed my great aunt's real genuine mink coats, and I wanted to convey how greed, like the wealthier you are, the greedier you are. And I find that the people who are the poorest are usually the most generous. So I wanted to convey a rich woman stealing things that she would never want, like Mexican salsa, just for the thrill of it or the rush of it. And so I borrowed some gold chains from different people, and she put on her fanciest dress and her nicest makeup and curled her hair, and we shot it with the piñatas in the background.
That's awesome. I love the camera angle view too. I mean, it really accentuates that that shot and how you have the converging lines down through there and all. It really pulls you right to the subject.
Yeah, the leading lines, as we say in class. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't looked at some of these in years, so it's really interesting. Yeah, this is probably one of my favorites, and it's one of the first ones I took. My friend Warren, that guy there, I met him when he was about 17, and here he's about maybe 19. Talented musician. He now can speak Arabic and Farsi, and he works for UCLA. He travels to the Mideast all the time. He's an advisor or something for some high-end people. He's an incredibly intelligent guy. And then this model, she just had incredibly long legs. And so this was also taken at my friend John Fumia's house. You could tell the house is very old, or from the 60s. And it was clean like this. He always had it impeccably clean. So I just had Warren put on, all these people, I have them put on very simple clothing that could be timeless for the most part. So it could have been shot in the 90s. It could have been shot today. And Warren has a really awkward, nerdy look about him, and he's a funny guy. So he was down for it, and even though it's a very intimate angle for the model, she was comfortable with it. So
That's Lust, right? The title of this one was Lust.
Lust, yeah. So this is
Yeah, yeah.
this is Lust in the series, and for some reason, and I do it to this day, even with the scripts I write, I always try to make the women strong and powerful, and I like making the men look dumb or ignorant or wrong or weak.
Well, that's not hard to do.
It's really not hard to do, and Warren was a good sport about it. So,
Yeah. All right.
so
This one.
this is the one that started it all off. This is Kari, my very first model that I ever had. I think we met in 07. And she was open to everything, and she was never uncomfortable showing her body or being silly or being just not afraid to jump off a roof or do whatever. She was just fun and wild. This was taken in my bedroom and in a tiny little duplex in the ghetto, dirty corner of our town. And my friend Kevin, I had been his Boy Scout leader. I'd known him that long, but he went on to the Marines and he had been to war, and he was just a big strapping guy. And occasionally he would be my assistant on photo shoots, carrying gear and things. And so we were talking one day, and Kari had this idea, or I don't remember who had the idea. And I said, but we would need to find a guy who'd be comfortable with it. And Kevin said, I'd do it. So so we arranged it, and he elegantly put a sock over his sensitive parts, and we basically did a 1, 2, 3, and he dropped and did a reveal, and we probably took maybe 15 or 20 images, and we ended up with this one.
You know, as far as the lighting goes, I mean, I really love the lighting because you got a kicker light in behind it there so that it doesn't look so dark in the background. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. And so that was my closet where I kept my clothes, and the back door is where the bathroom door is open, because I wanted a bit of depth. But after the first shot, I realized, oh wait, it's black back there. So I got another strobe and I put it there. And so, I mean, my back is literally in the corner of the room as I'm taking this photo. It's a very small room. But when you're shooting with a 28mm wide lens, you can get a lot. So yeah, it worked out really good.
You shot this with Canon?
I'm sorry?
Canon camera? Canon or Nikon?
Yeah, this is my Canon, probably 20D at the time.
Yeah, okay.
Something like that.
All right.
Yeah, so this is a favorite of a lot of people's. Again, I wasn't drinking at this time, so my only concept of alcohol was my brother drinking a lot of Jack Daniels, because my parents weren't ever drinkers either. And so Jack Daniels to me was like alcohol. And so so after I had done Lust and I had done Pride, I was like, okay, well, the next one would be something like Sloth. And my friend Steve, who was always a great guy and silly and goofy, and he was a great illustrator, and now he's a well-known ceramicist. He's also married to a ceramic artist. He was visiting his parents in town, and I told him the idea, and he was down for it. And I just went and bought a couple cheap Little Caesars pizzas and got all these different things for my house. The hardest thing to arrange, the only thing that wasn't in my house originally, other than the food, was the urine bottle that's next to the Lysol thing there on the side. Because I went to a medical supply store, and I bought that, and then I mixed yellow paint in there, and I
was talking about that.
I frothed it up at the last minute, and then I just put the light really low in front of me, and we shot it so it looks like TV. So,
well, I mean, the arrangements of the props, the choice of the props are amazing, and the composition. And I love the vignetting and how and everything about it is just really, really cool.
well, thank you.
What was the name of it again?
Sloth.
Oh, okay. All right.
So modern day sloth is just being a couch potato. So that's what I was doing.
I feel that way sometimes.
Yeah, right. Don't we all?
This one was really controversial, right?
it was hard for me to do this one, because the other ones have irony and humor involved,
Yeah.
um, and there's not a lot you can joke about with wrath, or at least that I wanted to, because if you make anger funny, it's no longer anger. And so, wrath, I live in a small town. I know a lot of drinkers. I've seen a lot of domestic abuse, unfortunately, in other people's lives. And so, again, this is in the same bedroom as the pride photo. The camera is now pointed on the bed out the bedroom door. And this is a guy named Billy, who's the sweetest, nicest guy, goofy, really smart. He can work on cars. He can brew his own beer. He was the first guy I ever knew to brew his own beer way back when. And this woman, Amanda, I had met her years ago just at a pool hall and taken her photo. And then years later, she found me and wanted to model. And when I met her, I went, wait a minute, I've taken your photo before. And I looked through my archives, and sure enough, I had a photo of her from like 4 years previous. And we became friends for several years. And then she got married and moved away to Texas, I think, and went to live her life. I've never heard from her since. But she was always very cool and open. And Billy, I just said, I'm going to buy you a bunch of beer and just pretend that you're angry. And he said, oh, I can definitely do that. And so we shot it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we shot it about 15 minutes.
Wow. I mean, obviously it's a very powerful image, and anybody that has been brought up or lived in an abusive family with a alcoholic can instantly relate to this. Some people will find it offensive, like when you was at my house and we had the camera club over and we went through these pictures at that time, and one of the members really objected to this picture. But the point is this: you've got to read what the story's telling you. I mean, you've got to have the impact on it. I mean, it's like news in a sense, in journalism. I mean, you can't hold back. You've got to have the story in the image, and you did a great job of that.
Well, thank you. I feel I still, like I said, it's not my favorite image. It makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
My wife would disagree and think that I like making people uncomfortable, because I'm very sarcastic, and she would consider me sometimes rude. But I just think I can be very sarcastically funny. But this bothers me. But I mean, that's, like you said, that's kind of the point of making art, is they're not all meant to be just happy, feel good things.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I hate to put in one of my stories here, but and I may show up the photo, but I did a photo shoot, also a stage photo shoot of kind of a New Orleans with a 50s, 60s type thing, and the model and all. And we was at a railroad station, is where we was going to shoot, and just lucky, a train pulled up, a passenger train pulled up. So she's getting on the train, and then I have the guy silhouetted in the background, with the hard brim hat and all that, holding a gun out. And the story was that this was jealousy. All right. And I entered it into a competition of storytelling, and I got 2 100s and 1 5. And I go, what the heck? I mean, what's a 5? And so I asked the judge, and she said, because it depicts the violence against women. And I go, but it's storytelling. Yes. But anyway, yeah, that's okay. That's very good.
Well, there's no accounting for taste. Everything is subjective. And if I've learned anything in this life, it's that, you can make good quality art. You're always going to have somebody who doesn't like it. So
yeah, I mean,
it's hard, because we create things because we want that pat on the head, and we want, someone to say, good boy, you did a good job. But sometimes I use my wife as a great example. If she has a very specific taste, And if she likes something, I know that 75% of the world's population is going to love it because she likes pink and glitter and rainbows and all the things. But if she hates something, I know that the artsy weirdos are going to like it because it's too
Right.
weird and it's too uncomfortable for her, and it makes her just uncomfortable, and she won't like it. But I know that I will like it and that my friends will like it. But if she just goes, eh, eh, that means, oh God, it's bad. That no one's gonna like it. And so the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. So if someone is angry about your work, at least they feel passionate about it,
You know,
right?
Mark, you took on, yeah, that's correct. You took on a project that I thought was just a massive undertaking, where you worked to go to, because you had a huge following on your blog and all, and you worked it out so that you could travel to every state in the U.S.
Almost
and
every state, almost every
yeah,
state.
and photograph these beautiful women from every state, and it just that kind of size of project amazes me. You know, just get in your car and go to the next state and go to the next state. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's just interesting. I was going through a few issues in my personal life, and I needed to get away. And so this was in the summer of 2009. So Obama had just been elected, and the country was going through a lot of strife, or it was sort of the beginning of where we're at now politically. And I just needed to get away. And so I convinced my dad at our burger restaurant that I was just needed to be gone for a month. And
yeah.
thankfully, my family is very understanding. And so they said, go. And so I was gone for 33 days. I drove through 43 states and I shot 16 models in 16 different states along. And I basically made a figure eight. I started in San Diego, went up through Colorado, through the Midwest, down to the south through Florida, back up through Georgia, up to West Virginia to see you, to New York. We went up to Nova Scotia in Canada, came back down through Michigan, went across the Dakotas up to Idaho, Seattle, and then I came back down to California. And
Wow.
it was a long, and I did it solo. It was a long trip. I met a few friends along the way that I had known before, but I also made a lot of new friends like you that I still keep in touch
Huh.
with.
Well, we've been friends for a long time. I really appreciate our friendship. You know, you also went to Europe, right?
I've been to Europe several times now. In 2013, I wanted to make a similar trip, but in Europe. And I have always been a history nerd. I've always been a European history nerd. My dad instilled that in me very young. I'm also a huge Indiana Jones fan. So I just love travel and seeking out knowledge. And so, like you said, my Instagram and my blog had a lot of followers at the time. So I literally just put out a blanket statement saying, these are the countries and cities I want to go to. Who there can help me? And I ended up staying on probably 9 different people's sofas because I had no money whatsoever. And I started a GoFundMe account, and I also had a bucket at our restaurant that people put change in or quarters or whatever. And again, I was gone for 30 some days, and
Wow.
and I drove through 16 countries and shot with, you know, 8 or 9 models, and got to, float in the Mediterranean Sea while taking a photo of a Russian model, or got to climb the Alps and went to Stonehenge. I mean, I went to Mont Saint Michel and to the Eiffel Tower. I went to Prague. I went to Rome. Everywhere in Rome. Italy is my favorite place. Went to Venice, and so that that was such a huge trip for me that I've gone back now 5 or 6 times. So yeah, I love it.
Wow. I'm going to share again here and see some of your other images here this moment. And share the screen. All right. So this is quite different. I've not actually seen this image of yours before.
Yeah, so we also have to make money.
Yeah.
um, And so my friends own a winery called Amplify Wines, both because it's musical, amplify musical notes, as well as amplify the flavor of wine notes. And so I helped them design this logo, the swish, the vibration logo, and I take bottle shots because they need to promote their work and have it on their websites. And usually they're clean backgrounds, very simple, just the bottle reflecting light and in a white backdrop. But a lot of this new wine that they were making was very colorful, and I designed the labels to be very colorful. And so I just shot these in my backyard with colored construction paper, and it's just natural
Yeah.
sunlight. And where I had placed it in the backyard, there were a bunch of shadows from a nearby bush just from the sunlight. And I thought, oh, I'm going to move it in a second. And then I took one test photo and I went, oh, that kind of adds a dynamic visual thing to it, especially because, their wine is organic. There's no fillers, there's no, sulfur or anything. It's all very natural wine. And so I thought the organic shadows worked.
Yeah, that's instantly reminds me of an Andy Warhol.
And again, I'm pretty educated on art history, so yeah, there's a lot of that creeps in for sure.
Yeah, I mean and it's perfectly a good use of that too with the colors and all.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for a grid. I love a good grid. This is another winery job. Presqu'île Winery is a very established, very high-end winery here on the Central Coast. We have a lot of celebrities who come to it from time to time. They come up from LA. And this is opposite, where the previous grid, all those photos together probably took about 14 minutes to shoot.
Is that a star filter that you used, or
yeah? So on here, this is a star filter, but this photo took about 3 hours.
Wow.
Because we would arrange it, and they say that more cooks ruin the stew, and so I had all the winery owners there, and the chef who was making the dish, and all these people, and we would move the glass 1 centimeter this way and roll the bottle one millimeter this way, and oh, let's put local rocks. Okay, let's put one napkin under the plate. Okay, let's put two napkins under the plate. And so this took a very long time to do, but we eventually got the shot, and it looks nice.
Well, the good thing about still life is that it doesn't move. It's still life, so
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about getting the model tired. I mean, it's going to stay
yeah.
right there.
But actually, the problem here was that the meat was so beautiful and rare, and the longer we shot this, it was cooking in the sun and turning gray. So she had to go and make this dish 2 other times and bring it back out. So there's always complications to everything. This is my dearly beloved friend Erica, who has been my model now for almost 10 years. We have seen each other through various relationships and emotional highs and lows, and I consider to be one of my dearest friends. And we were just shooting some photos in my bedroom, and she's literally sitting on a small sofa that's 3 feet from the edge of the end of my bed, and I'm sitting on the floor. And we were taking these photos, and she had her hair dyed blue, and she's a hairstylist, so she's always coloring her hair different things. And I just wanted a different layer to the image. And my mother-in-law had given us these really kind of weird orange lamps that we do love, but at the time I thought they were a little weird. But they're transparent plastic, and they're orange. So I just picked one up, and I held it right against the bottom of the lens and shot right through it. And that's what gave this effect.
What was it again that you used? What was that?
It's an orange, it's a lamp, but the base, the stock of the lamp itself is this orange clear plastic. And so I just put it right up against the lens and shot it like that.
That's amazing. Use what you have. That's amazing. Now this one's really bright and clean, very illustrative style.
Yeah, and here again, another friend had started making wine, and they needed a label, and so they came to me and they said, "Oh well, I have all these." This wine was dedicated to her grandmother, who the grandmother had been a model with Grace Kelly in New York City in the 1920s and 30s, and so she had all these classic photos of her um, from her modeling days, which were great. And so she said, "I'd love to like have a collage of them." And so if you know who Robert Rauschenberg is, I pretty much stole that Rauschenberg style. I scanned all the photos in, and I pulled some illustration things based on the kind of wine that she was making and the kind of flowers that her grandmother liked. And I made this collage with all these different little symbols. And then I thought that was the end of it. But then she also wanted photos of the bottle. So I did everything from design the bottle to design this photo. And it's just a white piece of plexiglass laid in her backyard. And then we got some flowers that she had in her backyard, and I kind of tore them up and put them on the sheet. And the only fake part about this was the bottle kept rolling, so I ended up just getting I forget what it was, maybe a nickel, and shoving it under the bottle so it would stop rolling, and then we took a photo.
Did that, so your only light source is the sunlight?
It's just the sunlight and the starburst filter. That's it. What's getting that little, yeah.
Looks like about 11 o'clock.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can set your clock to it, yeah.
How did you do this one?
Okay, so you mentioned my calendars before for our restaurant, because it's a burger joint from the 60s. And so for a while, people said, "Oh, you should do a pinup calendar." And so I was doing a few Varga-inspired pinup where it's girls in red bikinis because our color of the restaurant was red. And, you know, they were posing in different ways, and it was very kind of cheesy, and it didn't have a lot of meaning. And the more that men, our customers who are blue collar workers, started being kind of misogynistic about the women, it bothered me a lot. And so the next year, I decided that I would throw off the whole idea of this calendar and make the type of calendar I want to make, which again is sarcastic and funny. And so instead of the sexy women of Tom's Takeout, I wanted the accident-prone women of Tom's Takeout. So all the women in the series are having accidents while also looking attractive in their bikinis. So this girl, the only part that's photoshopped is actually she had a tattoo all down her side and down her ribs and her torso. And I photoshopped that out to make it look real because she had cheek piercings. And so we went to the top of our mall parking lot where I knew the sky would be flat blue because we never have clouds in our sky. And I got a fishing hook and line and some floats and a lure. And I put the hook in her cheek and I tied it to the door of my little truck. And I just said 1, 2, 3, and she pulled on it and pretended that it was hurting her. And we took a series of photos.
Wow! Now I would never imagined that was in camera like that. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
the hook is real, and that's the thing that
wow.
people. And you can barely see the fishing line. But no, but the other part about this is I am not an outdoorsy guy, even though I did hiking and Boy Scouts for years. So I've never really gone fishing. And so on the day, we're up on top of the mall parking lot and we're shooting this thing. And I pull out the hooks and I go to put it in her cheek, and I realize that it's got all those little mini hooks on the inside of it, right? What are they called? Yeah. The little barbs. It's got barbs inside of it because it's going to hook that fish. And so I didn't want to, because if you put that in, you're not going to be able to take it out really easily. So there I am getting a screwdriver from the back of my car and filing down those barbs as best I can before I put it through her cheek. And thankfully, she was very open-minded and she was a tough little thing. She was maybe only 5 foot tall, maybe only weighed 110 pounds, but she was tough as nails. And so she was open to it all. So that was really fun.
No model was hurt during the production of this
movie. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that the choice of the sky and the blue background and all that in relation to her red bikini is just, I mean, that's really dramatic. I mean,
Yeah,
just good,
and
good contrast.
the strobe, because the sun is coming on her right side, and so the strobe is hitting her face and illuminating everything else, and that's being run off my truck battery at the same time, off the cigarette lighter.
So you have a light also on the left and the sun, or you use the
Yeah,
light
so
as a keeper?
I'm using the sunlight as a secondary light. The sun is hitting the base of her wrist and palm in that one photo, and it's causing a rim light on her hair. But the strobe is what's lighting up the rest of her whole body.
Wow. Okay, like a field light then.
Yeah, yeah,
That's just
yeah. This
different. I
is
mean, this is the weddings. I mean, didn't you still shoot weddings?
Oh yeah, I shoot weddings. I've got a bar mitzvah on Saturday. I'm shooting my first bar mitzvah in 20 years. Um, but yeah, this was my friend Glenn's sister who was getting married. I'd known her since she was a young girl, and we this was during quarantine actually, and so they had to have this big wedding outside, and it was at a winery, and you know, it's this I call fish in a barrel shooting, because for me, after all the elaborate trying to arrange model schedules and lighting and everything, just doing natural light in a natural environment with people who look good, that's nothing. It's the easiest photography in the world to me.
Uh,
Well, and
I,
like you say, I'm pretty good with people, and
yeah.
you know, as I've said now a few times, photography, the act of using your camera, you need to get so good with it that it becomes second nature. You know, the old metaphor of, you know, it takes 10,000 hours to get good at something, but you need to have done 1 hour or 10,000 individual hours. I know a lot of photographers who just do the same thing for 10,000 hours, and so they don't learn a lot. And so
Right.
I've always been experimenting and, you know, shooting with light, strobe lights and long exposures and underwater and all these different things, so I could learn how to do it so well that in the moment I just have to deal with the person. And shooting people is the hardest. I say it's the Super Bowl of photography, because you have to deal with their moods, whether they didn't sleep well, whether you didn't sleep well that night, whether you're not feeling well, whether your camera is broken, whether your battery isn't charged the way you thought it was, whether the sun is changing, whether there's a dog barking, whether there's people mad that you're taking a photo in their area, all those things. And so once you can devote your energy to that, photography, the photography part of it, working the camera is easy. And so this is a great example where this local girl I met, she wanted to be a model, and now she's in the Philippines modeling professionally. She's doing ad campaigns and everything. She's just a naturally beautiful woman. Brooke Barreto is her name. And this, again, this effect was done in camera. And yeah, there's no Photoshop on this whatsoever.
How did you accomplish that? Looks like 3 different images.
Well, I have it right here. Can you see me?
Yeah, oh, yeah, let me quick off and stop sharing
So
this.
so this colored cube.
Yeah, I can see you good now.
Yeah, so you can purchase these cubes online. You know, they're $8 or $10, and you can shoot through them, and they give you different effects, right?
Well, how cool is that?
So if you get a colored one, you get even more different effects. So
Wow.
if you go back to that photo, you see the blue and pink here, right?
Yeah, let me go back to it now. Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
So I just shot.
Wow.
Now you can see it. I just shot through it, and since the glass are reflective surfaces, it doubled her image in camera. And then, you know, actually, the only Photoshop that was probably on here was, I think I took out a pimple or something like that. But otherwise, it was pretty straight out of the camera.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I mean, you know, who would have ever thought of taking a cube like that and shoot through them?
Like I
But
said, you just got to experiment, try things. That's why when I grabbed that orange lamp and shot that photo of Erica, I just, you know, you basically, I get bored really easily. So I just want to do new things.
it's another wedding.
Yeah, that's that same wedding. Yes. And again,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
this could easily be a comic book cover, you know,
Yeah.
with the titling above, and then on the bottom have a little QR code or a little thing. Yeah, all my photos look like comic book covers to me. Everything is, and it's also very, like I say, it's very Catholic. It's very symmetrical. Everything's vignetting towards the middle. Everything is usually very centered. Yeah.
Have you ever done where you do a lot of cinematic toning to images? Like in Photoshop, you would use the cinematic tone, like the warm tones or the blue tones and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I
Or,
guess I don't think about it in that level of detail. I just think what works best for the image. And yeah, sometimes I will, like, you want this photo to feel warmer, so I would warm up the center. And I maybe did cool out the top and the bottom a little bit, so you're drawn to the middle more.
yeah. You
But
know, Mark, you do a great job of, I mean, one of the things that I admire about you is that you are being able to create this in camera. And the advantage of that is to not try to spend, don't say to yourself, oh, I'll shoot this and I'll fix it in Photoshop. I
oh,
mean, that's a bad habit to get into. You
yeah,
get
I
it right in the
uh,
camera.
there's nothing worse than shooting a wedding or a family portrait session and hearing someone else say to someone, "Oh, he'll fix it in post or he'll fix it in Photoshop," and I'll say, "No, the whole point of you hiring me is I'm good enough to get 95% of it in camera because again, I like most people am inherently lazy. I don't want to spend 8 hours editing photos. I want to get it in camera so I can just tweak it a little bit where I need to and export it and never have to think about that photo again."
Oh, that's a great shot there. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
they loved it. Here, another one's another great. Capture the moment, right? So,
Yeah, so this is my good friends Jeff and Shaylee. Shaylee modeled for me for years. They're both very talented actors. Jeff is still performing. I just saw him perform last weekend, and now they have an 8-month-old daughter who I babysit on Mondays and Fridays usually. They're just a wonderful couple, and I think they're the greatest. All the people in this photo are actors or administrators at theaters. That's her dad in the background there clapping with the sunglasses on. But we had done the rehearsal, the wedding rehearsal the day before, and they had asked me, well, what time should we do the rehearsal? And I said the exact same time that the wedding is going to be tomorrow. And they said, why? And I said, so we can get a sense of the light. And
uh,
so where they had said their vows in the background where that woman's clapping in the green dress, it was in the shadow and it was okay. The lighting was bland. But when they started walking back in the rehearsal, the sun hit them right there at that spot in that moment. And so
uh,
being actors, I told them, okay, that cube right there, this is your mark. So when you get so have your first kiss down there, and then when you walk down the aisle, stop here, let the sun hit you, and kiss her again. And so that's when he dipped her and give her a kiss. And so we practiced this. And it's again, this has a starburst filter on it, so you can see the light popping off of her forehead. But this was staged and practiced, and since they're actors, they know how to perform. And of course, this is the killer shot that I know their grandkids will love.
you know, Mark, I mean, I've shot weddings professionally for years too, with my income from wedding photography.
Uh-huh.
And I will tell you that people don't really understand that you have to know all the different religions, all the different ceremonies,
Yep.
where to be, what
Yeah.
what spot you need to be. You need to be thinking of all that as the wedding's going on. You need to be where the shot's going to be before it happens.
Yeah.
And that's that's a challenge for people who say, you know, I mean, when I used to teach photography, I actually had a student that said, "Can you teach me just enough about?" This was an introduction to photography. She said, "Can you teach me just enough about the camera settings?" I stopped at Sam's Club and bought a camera on the way here, and I have a wedding scheduled for Friday.
Yeah. No,
Like,
exactly.
okay, this is not going to go well, you know.
It used to really, really, really bother me. Um, where people would say like, "Oh, what do you charge for a wedding, or what do you charge for family portraits?" And I would tell them, and I still don't charge nearly as much as a lot of these other people do, who don't have as much experience. But I would quote them a price, and they would say, "Oh, that's really expensive." My cousin just bought a camera. I think I'll just have him take photos. And then you run into these people because it's a small area, in a month or 6 months later, and they'll say, oh, the photos just didn't turn out right. And I invariably can say, well, you got what you paid for. That's great. The day of a wedding, I'll probably shoot, 2,000 to 4,000 images because I'm thinking like a historian. Oh, these photos are going to last forever. And so I'll shoot them all. And then I'll go through and like in every situation, I'm shooting 5 or 6 at a burst. And so I'll weed out the best ones, the best of the best, and still come out with, maybe 1,100 images. Um, and so once I'm done with that, I just send it to them and I charge them enough to make it worth my while for my time. But I know I'm leaving money on the table by saying, oh, go to the camera store and print these yourself super cheap, or upload them to Walmart or Costco or whatever you need to do. But I'd rather have them do it and get cheaper and lose that bit of money than try to explain to someone the difference between a 5x7 and an 8x10 crop. And
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
and deal with, oh, well, my grandmother wants an 11x17, but I want a wallet, but my niece wants this. Like, oh, that drives me insane. So I'd rather just say, here's a file of all of them. Enjoy, go do your thing.
That's awesome. I mean,